And on this one, I'm gonna drill all the way through so we can slide the bar through this end. It's really important that you try to drill as perpendicular as possible, so that way you don't have issues with the pole being level, the bar being level after you install it. All right, so there's the hole shovel, the pole shovel. So go ahead and measure out the distances that you want. For my distances, I did 19 inches, and then the bars are 4 feet long. So I dug it down 2 feet, so it's a 6-foot beam. It's a 4x6 that's 6 foot long. It's gonna be 2 feet into the ground, and then we're gonna concrete that into the ground to anchor it down. The height of these bars, what I did is made sure that I measured how high I want to be when I'm standing, when my arms are fully flexed towards the armpit, so that way when I'm at the bottom of the dip, my feet aren't hitting the ground, so then I don't have to bend my legs, because that way it's better form and you're not arching your back, and then your hamstrings and all that are not getting loaded when you're trying to focus on your chest. So set all this up before you pour the concrete. Make sure it's all level. You make sure your holes are all lined up and everything else, and then we'll go ahead and pour the concrete, let it set with the poles in there, so that way, and then I'll put a level on it and everything else, and we'll run through that so we can make sure it's nice and level and even all the way across. Okay guys, 2 ways I figured out the width to do the dip bars. One is with these Pullup bars that I use. So obviously I put those apart and then did dips on them just to feel for the spacing. The other way is just to hold a tape measure. I just grabbed a tape measure, held it by my waist, and then did it, just took the measurement. And actually doing it with the tape measure was wider, so I'm glad I used the Pullup bars because I was able to bring it in. So the tape measure, I estimated 24 inches, but with the Pullup bars, I did 19 inches, and that worked out a lot better. So we got the level on there. You want to make sure that it is level. And it's okay if it's going to be a little bit off, just because we're going to pour the concrete, and you can adjust in the concrete. So that one's a little bit off there. So only about a 32nd of an inch, so it's good enough with the concrete go in there and it'll level out. So it'll be set, and you'll see we'll anchor it in to the pull-up bar. The pull-up bar was basically the same technique. I wanted it higher, so I contacted Rogue in order to get an extension on my squat rack, and they wanted $1,200 for like a 3-inch extension to get new poles and new rack and all that other stuff. This all said, the pull-up bar cost $50. So I got the bar, I cleaned it with alcohol, I'll show you that, and then I primed it and painted it. I bought the 4x6s, pressure treated, and the concrete. All told, it's $50 for the pull-up bar. And then it's gonna be another about another $50 for that. So $100 for a pull-up bar with dip bars that you can do, that's wide enough. You can do tuck unders, you can set rings on them, do pull-ups, dips, you can do pull-ups on the bar, you can do muscle ups. So everything you need for $100 right here. So I anchored in the pull-up bars into the ground with the concrete, the same way I'm doing the dip bars in the concrete. All right, so here's the concrete. Cut the bag open. Got 80-pound concrete for the high strength. Just read the instructions on the concrete that you buy. There's some extra concrete in there, and mix it, however the consistency that the bag recommends. What I did, because I'm not going to use an entire bag, so it's 6 pints for this bag. On the instructions is I'm just going to use a 32-ounce container. 1 pint is 16 ounces. So basically 3 of these, or just to go by pints, I can just use a half and estimate, and then I can mix the concrete in small batches as I need to. I'll just use a wheelbarrow to do the mixing. I just added the water. Just use a trusty old shovel to mix it up. What I recommend doing is adding a little bit less water than you need. You can always add some more water at the end, but if you put too much water in, then you're just going to ruin the cement and the concrete mix. So we'll get this mixed up, and then we'll pour it in the holes and set the wood posts for the bars. All right, so one thing, just to make sure everything's completely level. So this main pull-up bar pole is already set and anchored into the ground, right? So I'm not going to move that. Right now I'm letting the other pole dry, and then right now it's all level, up, down, and left, right. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure that bar is level. So once this is set, then I'll fill this hole with concrete and level that bar. Meanwhile, I'm going to pour concrete in this hole and let it set, and then I'm going to wait to drill the hole over here with the pull-up with the dip bar, just to make sure it's level, because I don't want to drill the holes and line it all up, have it set, have it tilt. So I'm kind of doing one pull at a time, if you're following along, just to make sure everything's perfectly level, so that way you're working your muscles evenly with distribution and all that stuff. So just use 100%, or I'm sorry, 70% rubbing alcohol. Make sure you get all the grease and grime off your steel pipe. I'm using 1.25 inches. Just what I recommend is just grab it with your hand, feel the grip, feel how the diameter, the circumference and diameter and everything that you like on the pipe, and pick something that's going to be ergonomic with your hand. Usually 1 inch to 1.25 inches is about the size that you want. So you just prime it, use Rust-Oleum. Got primer and paint. A couple F-18s for you. Some primer and paint all mixed in one. So put the alcohol in there, prime it, paint it. That'll keep it from rusting. I also picked a color. I didn't want to go with black because of the heat. That way the bar doesn't burn you as much. So I picked a lighter color, but I didn't want white because I wanted it to blend in a little bit more with the forest and not be an eyesore and stand out from far away. So that's the plan. You can also paint the pressure treated. I could paint it like a brown or something to blend in, so it's you probably wouldn't even notice it from the house. So that's the pull-up bar. Those are going to be the dip bars. It's all level now, so we're going to mix the concrete and we're going to set them in and be ready to rock. The other thing just to note is I didn't want any water getting into the bar and rusting it from the inside, because obviously I didn't prime and paint the inside. So I just took a piece of wood and tapped it in. It's a little bit larger than the diameter of the hole, so it's about 1 inch and 1.5 inches. And then I just rounded the edges to taper it, and then I just tapped it in with a hammer, and that blocks the water from getting inside there. Simple, easy fix. It was from an old broom handle that was just in the scrap wood pile. Okay, the concrete's all set. So there are the bars for the dips, and there's the pull-up bar. So a couple things with the level, just to make sure. It should be obvious, but for those of you that don't have a lot of experience with leveling, obviously you have your bubble. You should know how to use a level. So you want to make sure it's level in this direction, and then you also want to make sure it's level in this direction. Okay, so then each post is level, front, back, left, right. But then also, as you can see, I crossed from the front to the back, and then also from the on each specific one. So you can see there we have, it's a level across, and then on the same post as well. So you can see that we want to make sure it's level each bar, and then we want to make sure it's level across like that. So once you have that all level, then you know that you are good and it is completely plumb. So even though all of this sits on a hill, you can see it slopes downhill. So basically the back posts are actually higher and the front posts are a little bit lower into the ground, but the whole apparatus itself is level. The bars are level with each other. The posts are level. So what we'll do is we'll let the rest of this concrete set, and then I'll go ahead and drill a hole into here and put a screw, so that way this bar doesn't twist when you're using it. And if you noticed on the pull-up bar especially, I did that as well. So go ahead and drill a recessed hole. I marked the hole, and I'll show you how to do all that, but basically mark the hole, drill in with a smaller diameter bit, mark the pipe, take the pipe out. I'll drill a nice straight hole only through one side, and then I'll screw through the wood, anchoring the wood to the pipe, so that way the pipe doesn't twist at all when you're doing your exercise. Right, here's the broken rake that I use to plug the end caps of the bar. So on the miter saw here, I'll just go ahead and cut. All right, so there's the two end caps. I could use sander, but I'll just save a little bit of time here. I'll just use the grinder since it's already set up and plugged in. But basically you just want to bevel the edges of these just slightly, so that they just slide in after you hammer them in. So as you can see, just a little bit on there in order to hammer it into the end caps, and they're both done. So just realized I was being a little bit put my hands a little close to this. You need to be careful. I was bracing on here so that my fingers wouldn't slip or anything like that. If this thing pulls the wood into you, you could put your finger up against that and really scar your knuckle. So just remember safety as you're working. All right, so here are the screws I'm going to use to anchor the bar so it doesn't twist. It's a little bit overkill. These are lag screws, but this is left over from a swing set that broke, so it's just scrap for me. So I'll just use it, and it doesn't cost anything. You can also just use a normal screw, like construction grade screw or something like that. But in this case, since I have the bolts like I talked about, so we'll go ahead and install these. Okay, so for installing the lag bolts, one thing I want to do is recess them. So I'm going to use a hole saw, and then I'll use a pilot just to make sure they go in straight, and also to mark the pipe. So what I do for this is this is a 1/4 inch, so I'm going to go a little bit less, 3/16. So you can line that up, and you can see there's going to be some room for the threads to grab into the wood. And then I just want a hole saw that's just big enough to use the deep socket. So what I'll do is I'll line this up. So there's your 1/4 inch. You take your bit. You can see how there's just a little bit of room on either side. So that'll allow me to recess the hole and then to use my socket and still get into the wood. Because this isn't bearing a lot of weight in this axis where the bolt's going to be, I'm only going to put one in just to save on hardware. Really the force is stepping down, and the ground is going to be providing that for me. So we'll just go ahead and recess that just a little bit. It's also on the concrete, so I'm not going to dig into the concrete. So it's basically anchored, and this is just going to keep it from falling out. All right, drilled the pilot hole first. We'll switch out. Now we'll recess the bolt, and I'll just go in about that far. So just to where you can see, so that's the depth I'll be looking to cut. Okay, so there you go. And then now we can fit our socket in there. Okay, just make sure you use a washer. Pressure treated lumber is very soft, and this will just dig in, and then you won't be able to get your lag bolt out. So we'll go ahead and anchor it together now. All right, there we go. I may end up putting another one in on the bottom, but we'll see how it works out. So now you can step on it. You got your bolt recessed inside there. The concrete's all set, posts are up, poles are in. Final step here is just to put a little lag bolt in to anchor these, and then I'll touch up paint the bar because all the sliding back and forth kind of scratched it. So I'll recess, countersink, lag screw in here, mark the pipe, and then drill a hole. And to save life on my nice expensive drill bits, I'll show you a trick I do for that. So there's the pilot hole. There is the mark on the pipe. Now we'll take it into the shop and we'll drill it all the way through and then come back and put in the lag bolt. The only other step we'll do here is use the hole saw just to countersink and recess the lag bolt in so people don't bump into it, but also just so it goes, we want it through the pipe and all the way through the other end. So the lag bolt will just come in and basically penetrate the pipe and stop on the other side. I'm not going to put a hole on the other side. All right, so we're in the shop. We're going to put the pipe in the clamp. We're going to use a towel, obviously, to not scratch it, so we can punch a hole into the pipe that we marked. Now, before we do that, to save my expensive drill bits, I just use a cheap Harbor Freight step drill bit. That really allows it to go through the steel. So on the 1/4 inch lag, just use my multimeter here, and it's a 1/4 inch. So then we'll go through, and I already kind of marked it. You can see right there, it's the 5th step. We have a 1/4 inch. So this is a real nice Nico stainless steel digital caliper. Really like it. Happy to have it. I have a manual one just for quick and easy measurements, but the digital one obviously is pretty nice as well. So we're going to go down to the 5th line, and then this will allow the screw to go through without messing up the threads. Go through the wood, go through the pipe, be a pretty tight tolerance, and keep the pipe from twisting when you do your dips. And then there's our mark right there. So we'll go ahead and drill that right now. I'll do both pipes and then we'll come back. One thing I did forget to mention, so we got the step drill bit, we drilled down to our 5th detent. I always wear eye pro, ear pro, steel, eye protection, ear protection, steel sharp shavings in the eyeball. Could blind you for life, or could at least damage your eye. The one thing about these step drills is you're not going to get a clean, uniform cut. So the top here, if you can see that, is going to be a larger circumference than the bottom. So I'll use my expensive Milwaukee drills. I'll just take it just barely to where it's at least the top is correct, and then I'll go through and I'll clean it up with the bottom. So you see it won't quite go all the way through. It'll set in there, but it won't go all the way through. So we'll change the drill bits out, we'll clean it up, we'll finish, make the hole uniform, and then we'll take it out. Okay, if you do have trouble lining up the hole with the pipe, go ahead and use a flashlight. So the first attempt I had, I didn't quite have the hole lined up. So what I'm gonna do is just shine the light in this side and then look in here, and you can see how it's lined up. Now, if we go ahead and rotate the pipe, then the hole's gonna obviously go away. So let's do that. That'll get the pipe all lined up, and then you can go ahead and do your put the lag screw in, and that'll make it a lot easier. Right, so we got the poles in. We got the lag screw in. You can see it's countersunk, so that way it doesn't stick out. And then inside, let's see, we'll get a flashlight here. Inside, you can see it goes all the way through. So now there's no chance of it rotating with your hand. See, no matter how hard I twist, it doesn't rotate. Last step is we'll put in my plugs. I'll just hammer those in and be done. So we hammered in the plugs for water protection, spider protection, etc. You got the poles countersinked, got the bars primed and painted, got the steps put in. So there you go. For 200 bucks, do it yourself, save on DIY. You have a pull-up bar and a dip bar that you can do fully extended without bending your legs. Tuck unders, you could do backflips, you know, pull-ups, muscle-ups, all that stuff off it if you want. And then the kids here can use the steps to get up.